Welcome to the TNC Random Fandom podcast. We are here to have fun and talk all things pop culture, collecting, and nerd culture in general. Make sure you join the conversation during our live stream with our most excellent hosts, Craig Borden and Tommy Mock. Let the shenanigans begin.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to TNC Random Fandom. That's right, we're back. Just like the sequel, I'll just say. So, Tommy, first things first, how the heck are you, buddy? It's been a bit.
You know what? It has been a bit. Things are going pretty well. We had obviously a successful performance on Mother's Day with the Flint Hill Dance Troupe at Genesee Country Village and Museum, which I'm sporting my shirt right now. And
I got to meet all your
from-
friends a few weeks ago too. Even better.
Yes. And so I got a chance to dance and MC, which is probably a good thing because I didn't have amplification again. So remember last time when we did this stuff, I lost my voice, and I wasn't indoors this time. I was outdoors. So, but we got some really great feedback. People seem to really like the programming that we're putting out, and you know me. I try to do the best that I can to keep everybody engaged and involved and just be a complete lunatic. And I am very grateful to my family of the Flint Hill Dance Troupe to allow me to be that lunatic and let them shine in the dance. But other than that, I mean, how was your Mother's Day? Did you celebrate with your mama?
Yeah, we actually we went to Jeremiah's here in Rochester. We drank beer and we were merry. And we had a bunch of chicken wings. It was, typical. We're not exactly a brunch type family for a Mother's Day place. We're more of a let's just drink beer and make fun of each other kind of family. So
Yeah,
it worked out. I had a good time. But yeah, it's all that.
Being said, there, Mr. Craig. Now I know you just got off of doing your other podcast, and we're kind of this is kind of like a filler podcast because we've kind of been back and forth a little bit. We shoot, we did it. We missed 2 weeks in a row, so
Yes.
we have to catch up on this. But this week, we are celebrating our mom, so we're going to give them a whole an extra half a week by doing this episode. So tonight's episode, we are doing the pop culture, the TV and movie moms that raised us, and our favorite ones. And we can date back to early days of television to now. So we can go back to June Cleaver or um, some of these other ones like Donna Reed, even Lucille Ball. But then we could get as up to date as
Lois Griffin, Mark Simpson, like I put in the pictures.
and you know what? I will say this: I will not exclude anyone from this when it comes to matronly people. So, like, I would put in Mrs. Garrett as a mother figure from The Facts of Life. So, and I'm going back. So, like, I would even go back to Nell Carter from Give Me a Break. She was a motherly figure to those kids. And I'm probably way out of your recollection of TV.
Some of those are ringing bells. But we're talking My Nick at Night versus your you watched it.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you this right now. So we have a new fan, and you met this person. This is Kelly, who is part of the Flint Hill Dance Troupe, who's actually our leader. Her husband is a fan, and he was actually very disappointed when we missed an episode. So I'm hoping, and he better be on here.
We got to figure out the regular schedule again.
Right. You know what? We probably need to maybe readjust a day because sometimes getting in, being at 7 o'clock on Sundays is kind of hard because that's when people are winding down from dinner and getting ready for their work week and stuff like that. So we may have to adjust.
I must not care enough about my work week, Tommy, because that's like the only time I feel like I have 5 minutes to myself is on a Sunday evening. with a beer in my hand. Mine's will talk nerdy stuff.
Right. Well, we'll figure it out.
We will figure that out. That's offline talk. So
That's
anyway,
offline
like I
talk.
said, or like you said, we're going to talk all things the ultimate pop culture moms tonight, and I figured we just do it back and forth, throw some things out, and there you go. I think your John is watching.
Yeah, John Paul is watching. Yep. Hi, John.
Coming in on the thing, John, and make sure you have your favorite pop culture moms handy so you can start throwing those out there for us to chit chat on here. So
Yeah, I heard
we
earlier that he was writing down a
with
list.
and talk stories, and yeah, exactly, and we could just share some of the fun that is the wonderful tip of the hat that we're going to try doing this evening to all the wonderful pop culture moms, and I just say history at this point. So is there anybody in particular you would like to start off with, or would you like me to get the ball rolling?
You know what? You get the ball rolling because I want to make sure that I pull up the proper name of the person who portrayed the character and who she was portraying, because I want to make sure that I get the two in the correct order. So you go ahead and start.
I didn't think of that part, so I will have to look up her real name. But the one I wanted to talk out the first was this is one from my childhood that was right up there with Seinfeld and always competing with them for the ratings every week. And at the beginning of the show, perfect comedic balance between her and the lead that was Tim Allen on Home Improvement, but Jill Taylor from Home Improvement had to go wits and match with Tim Taylor, and the wonderful level of sarcasm that she always had to be just matching the weird zaniness that is more power, right? It was perfect, and I love that they got throughout the years. She became just as important to that show as anything else going on in that show. It wasn't just the tool time part, but the plot lines of everything from her forgetting to change the oil light and yelling back at him and making Tim Taylor feel like it was his fault. It was all these things that were just, it was really, really cool in that show to watch her become what it was. And like I said, ended up stealing the show a little bit in the end of that.
Now, I would agree with you, but I think that Tim had two abbots to his Costello. He had his wife, and he also had Al. So he
Yeah.
had two straight men
Work
that
wife.
kind of like set him up to be the buffoon that he was. So, but no, that's a really good call. That's a really good call.
I
like that
got
one.
you with that one, didn't I? You
Yes,
didn't
yes.
have that one on your list,
I,
I bet.
I almost thought, but the thing is, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that you picked
Yes.
Jill Taylor. But so I'm going to go and I'm going to throw this one out there because I actually use this as part of my shtick in Genesee country when I was like, calling people out. And I was like, whether you're a mom or a mum or a mommy or a mama or whatever. And then I was like, or even a mommy dearest. So I'm going to throw out there Faye Dunaway as Joan Crawford, I believe she was playing in the movie Mommy Dearest. And it's based on a true story. And she is absolutely just a horrible, abusive woman. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that she's my favorite. I'm just looking at it as she was a mom, and she was. I don't know what to say. This movie hits you figuratively, but with wire
Yeah.
hangers. But no, if you haven't seen Mommy Dearest, Faye Dunaway as Joan Crawford, um, it's not for the faint of heart because it does show abuse of children.
Yeah.
But it's a great can't even say it's a great movie. Just watch it.
Exactly.
Bring up Mommy Dearest.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, those are the kind of things like I said, you said it at the beginning of the show is okay, great. My Hollywood moms, I'll just say, tend to fall more in the comedy ballpark. And I wasn't going
Right.
to, push out any even in the well drawn animated ballpark, just because, like I said, there are some that are just so epic that I can't take them off of the list here and leave them off. But that's exactly it. Oh, there we go. Is that the wild thornberries we got in the?
Yeah.
Kate, am I right?
Oh yes.
I think that
Kate,
is
Kate
the wild
Brady.
thornberries was Marianne Thornberry, right?
So you know what? She's playing to your sensibilities because she knows you're gonna go freaking Nickelodeon. And if Gene's watching right now, Gene's probably freaking jumping up and down in his living room. So
Yeah.
Kate, look at you're pulling the low hanging fruit there, Kate.
Well, and I think it's funny you mentioned the Nickelodeon thing. Is I hadn't even went there in my head, and I'm sitting here going, okay, great. You can go like, I can't remember if you ever met Clarissa's freaking mom or dad, but I feel like you had to have. But maybe like even like Sabrina the Teenage Witch from the same Melissa Joan Hart branch, right?
Yeah.
She lived with her aunts. That those were her mothers at the end of the day, right?
Right.
So helped raise her. I'm actually gonna go a little awkward here because this one started as a comic book character and obviously became live action as Spider-Man became more and more of a actual movie thing. But I'm gonna go Aunt May because without Aunt May and Uncle Ben, for that matter, you don't get Peter Parker to be Spider-Man. And she was always that rock that was there. And I cannot say how hard in the last Spider-Man that it was, and I'm sorry if I'm spoiling it for everybody. Laura Mr. Tomei's character that she was playing, Aunt May, in the most recent Spider-Man movie, she gets killed by the Green Goblin. And like I said, it just got me. And I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting it. And it came out of nowhere. And like I said, I grew up with that as like, to your point, a motherly figure in the
Mhm.
comic books. And it became TV shows when I was a kid. And then all of the, movies and everything like that. That character was just stuck in here of what, to your point, a motherly figure is. So, and I don't think you get the good guy that is Spider-Man without Aunt May.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Again, I always look at it from the standpoint of the straight man to the comedic, bumbling buffoon, the person that kind of keeps everybody grounded, and so I I'm gonna actually put this person on. I'm gonna go into back to the Nickelodeon sphere, if you will, but I'm also gonna date myself because I'm gonna go way back to You Can't Do That on Television. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because of that book that I told you guys about when we had Gene on the show and talking about Nickelodeon. The actress's name is Abby Haggard or Hagyard. Hopefully I'm
mhm.
pronouncing it right. But the mom character's name was Valerie, and but the reason why I picked her is not necessarily because of the character she played in the show, because You Can't Do That on Television, the adult characters were purposely made to be idiots. That the kids basically were smarter than the adults, which is what the Nickelodeon mantra pretty much was, is kids
Yeah.
rule and stuff. But the reason why I picked her was based on the book um, uh, Slimed, where Alistair, who was a character or a actor on that show as a young child, he had to do a scene with his shirt off, and she, as a motherly person behind the scenes, actually was very protective of him and made sure that he was okay with everything, and she became that motherly figure behind the scenes, and that's where you kind of really need some of these child actors really need that motherly figure, because sometimes you have parents of these that are just living off of them, and you're going to this next one. If you ever read the book um, by Jeanette McCready, who played on iCarly, she played Sam. She wrote a book called
Taking
"I'm
another
Glad
one.
My Mother Died" or something like that, or "I'm Glad My Mother's
Mhm.
Dead," and she tells the horror stories of a mother who pushed her to be skinny and all these things. So, but
Yeah.
but Abby Haggard, if you're still with us and everything, I appreciate what you've done behind the scenes, more so than what you did on screen, because let's face it, you can't do that on television. The adult characters were just bumbling idiots. So, yay, Valerie.
I wonder,
I'm
you brought
getting
up something else in that whole thing that I wasn't thinking of, but it does ring true because obviously a lot of these mothers that are, portraying, these pop culture people that we're talking about on the show this evening, are interacting with children and everything on these stages. So they're kind of a second mom to a certain
Yeah.
point, and it makes me wonder, like, even as most recently as like the Stranger Things stuff, right? Those kids were really young, great actors and whatnot, but oh my god, what what they the way they interact with even on screen with like Winona Ryder, for example, is that something that translates from the character, or is it just her playing the normal way she is in real life that is the character? There's a balancing act, and for all these actresses that do all this stuff.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't. I would like to think that she was, but it seems
Mhm.
as if Winona Ryder has gotten more flighty in her older years. I mean,
Yeah,
she was like the
I was using it as an example.
right, but
So that's a new one that
but
most people know.
maybe she is protective of the kids and everything. But now that they're adults and they obviously don't need the protection. But like you said,
Yeah,
they were
that show
young.
came out how many years ago?
Right.
It's still a
So
great show, but
so and then that'll bring up one of my. Oh, excuse me. That will bring up one of my next ones. But
go
you
ahead.
guys, yours is next. Yours is next. Go first.
No, if it's right there, go. It's not
All
a
right.
biggie.
So actually, Kate the Great, she brought this one up, and I actually posted it on our page, and I agreed, and this person was on my list, and it was Mrs. Weasley, Molly Weasley,
It sounds familiar.
um, and she was the mother, pretty much the mother to Harry. Harry was never happiest unless he was with the Weasleys.
Oh, that's right. I remember this one.
Yeah.
I was like, why does that sound familiar?
So
Now I got it.
so Harry Potter, when when he first meets Molly Weasley, it's at the train station, and he doesn't know how to get through 9 3/4 to the. So she's like, so you make a running start, and I'm paraphrasing because I'm getting it wrong. But one of the best mother scenes in that whole movie is where her daughter Ginny is battling Bellatrix Lestrange, and I know you don't know what the hell I'm talking about because you.
Some of it I do, but this one was one of the movies I hadn't seen.
But this is the last. This is the last movie. This is the Deathly Hallows.
That's why
We're talking the Battle of Hogwarts, and and Ginny's going back and forth with Bellatrix, but Bellatrix kind of gets the best of her, and Molly's not having it. She goes into it, and then they start sparring with each other, and at the point to where she almost gets Bellatrix gets the best of her, but she wasn't having it, and she basically says this, and I love this. This is probably one of the best movie lines of a mom could never give. Not my daughter, you bitch. And then she freaking casts a spell.
So she went
up.
Ripley on her.
It's very reminiscent of Ripley in
Yep.
Aliens.
Aliens.
And I'm going to use her as a caveat. So it's the same concept. Is
Mom vibes.
Molly Weasley by all means is a great mom. She's a mama bear, and she will protect her cubs, even the cubs that aren't hers. She will protect them all.
Yeah. So I'm going to use that as segue points. So now thank you for putting the ball on the tee for me to hit a home run. You said protecting the kids, right? So this one is a movie I would say that would probably from the title steer people away. But at the end of the day, they were good moms and they protected their kids and did good things for their kids, but they just had to have a little fun while they were not around, I'm giving a shout out to the bad moms, Kristen Bell, Catherine Hahn, and Mila Kunis. So I just thought it was one of those more recent movies, obviously, but at the end of the day, they did right by their kids, even though they needed a little bit of a break. And the three of them picked each other up really well to make like Supermom at the end of the day. So I thought that was, just a great story to begin with. And honestly, to your point, very grounded. It felt real, which is why it was an amusing movie. And it's had a couple of sequels at this point now too, including a Christmas one. Because why not? You have good chemistry with people. You find a way to work with them, and I think the three of them really enjoyed working together on that movie.
Yes.
So,
yes. So I'm gonna go back into a we mentioned this person in the beginning. I'm going to say Marge Simpson. I'm sure that Marge Simpson is on your list.
You've got it,
but
bud.
I'm going to throw something out there that you probably know, but maybe some of our viewers or fans don't know. But
This is the first time we've actually talked about The Simpsons on this show? Because it actually might be.
It might be. It actually might be. So, but Marge Simpson.
Don't mind the paraphernalia.
Marge Simpson actually posed in Playboy. There's a Playboy issue where Marge Simpson is the centerfold. So I'm not going to pull up any of that stuff, but for all of you perverts out there, go ahead and look it up.
There's your pop culture. The pop culture level made it all the way to the magazine. Just so
fun fact.
But no, you talk about. Go ahead.
Fun fact: Hugh Hefner graduated from my high school.
I did not know that. So tell me, why are you stuck here with me?
My yearbook.
So you nailed it though with Marge Simpson though, because you talk about TV moms and everything like that. Marge Simpson checks all the boxes, including dealing with some of the craziest stuff any mom would ever have to deal with, and somehow not aging a year in what 30 some odd years, 40 some odd years, right?
The first iteration of The Simpsons was on the Tracy Ullman show. And that was 1989. So we're well into the 40s at this point, right? Is that close to 30?
Just like the South Park episode that says those Simpsons have done it. They started in 1989, 36 seasons of The Simpsons, 789 episodes. So there's a tip of the hat. Marge Simpson, like I said, hasn't aged a day.
No. Her inner voice has always been gravelly. So to Marge Simpson, good day.
Exactly. So, but yeah, and it's the longest running show I think at this point on American television. So it's kind of crazy. So that was the one I was going to go next. So well played for finally taking one from me.
All right.
I had another one on the top of my. Go for it.
No, go ahead. I'm waiting on you.
Oh, you're waiting on me now? I'm losing my mind on where I had it a minute ago, and I was gonna just be that one that would counteract that with easily doing Lois Griffin as far as that same ballpark of crazy, and almost been on half of the time. But to that point, for some, the difference between somebody like Lois Griffin and Marge Simpson in comparison anyway is, both had the crazy stupid husband, right? Marge is still the prototypical TV mom at the end of the day, right? Lois Griffin can get in a chicken fight just like Peter Griffin can and beat people up. And she holds her own with the dumbest person on the planet to her point, and she keeps them in check. Meanwhile, I'd say that it's the love always finds a way more with Peter and Homer and Marge, There's a little bit of contrary to who can dish out more, and I would say that Lois has got a little bit more crazy in her just as much than Marge Simpson, but still a good mom at the end of the day.
I agree. So I'm going to go with somebody who's actually had multiple iterations. She's been played by multiple people. She dates back all the way to the 60s. And
Okay.
so I'm going to go with Morticia Addams. Now
I was wondering if that might be where you were going.
well, I could have went with Lily Munster, but
Yep.
I'm going with Morticia Addams, and the reason why I'm going with Morticia Addams is because we have new movies and episodes and shows that actually brought this character back. So we have Wednesday that's coming out with a season 2, I believe.
Great show
Uh,
too.
but we've had live action movies, we've had animated movies, and it started out as a television show. And again,
Yeah.
as the true matriarch of the Adams family. She basically, she's very prim, she's very proper, but she doesn't take any guff from anybody, and she knows that she has a devoted husband in Gomez. So
Yeah.
I got to say that Morticia Addams probably is one of those moms that she loves her family and she will protect her family if she needs to.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morticia Addams.
Just to make the horrible, pun here, the deadpan humor. It's just perfectly spot on for her. Great delivery with that character on all points. The sarcasm's always there, or just that little playful jab, kind of like in an under the breath kind of like way that is just like a slap in the face.
Right. But
So,
yeah,
and not to mention being able to handle Wednesday and everybody and things and and all that fun stuff. But so I got a good one for you, and this is the one I was like, I know this. What the hell show was it? Is right on the tip of my tongue, and I couldn't get it out of there. So now that I bashed my head efficiently against my desk to shake this one loose, Tommy, it is Lily Foreman from the That '70s Show. Exactly right. You talk about trying to keep people in check. Well, I heard it interacting with the high school kids in that show and fitting in perfectly to be just that '70s mom hovering over everything a little bit, but still being completely clueless at the same time was just perfect.
it's funny. It's funny you should say that because I'm gonna throw out somebody to you, but no, that's a good one. I'm gonna throw out somebody that I think is kind of similar, maybe.
Mhm.
No, no, no.
Ballpark.
Because she's the ultimate smother. Okay,
Oh, I
and
know where you're going already.
maybe you might be wrong, but I'm going with Beverly Goldberg from the Goldbergs.
That's where I knew it. I knew it from the wording, the smother,
The smother.
because that show is hilarious.
Well, you could have thought that I was talking about the mom from Everybody Loves Raymond, who wants to be all up in everybody's business. But no, Beverly Goldberg.
I'm not putting her on the list. I'm sorry. But the smother, Beverly Goldman, I'd say
Goldberg.
they're a little bit polar opposite, right? Because the smother obviously is up in everybody's business, where Lily was just kind of in that, what's going on? What y'all doing down there? And everybody turns around and goes, nothing. Where the smother would have been in that basement.
What's that smell?
But that was a great show. I loved that show. And Beverly Goldman's
Goldberg.
character was probably one. Yeah. What was that?
You said Goldberg, not Goldman.
Goldberg, I said Goldman. So anyway, but Beverly Goldberg, at the end of the day, that she was one of the best characters on that whole show, and a slew of great characters actually at the end of the day, and stood out to that point. Well, like I said, as soon as you said smother, I knew exactly where you were going.
So one of the reasons why I love that show so much is because everything that was depicted that Adam did in that show, I can honestly say I did too. I knew what it was like to fall in love and just be falling in love with and with your prepubescent voice changing and trying to sing a love song to the girl you like, and she's probably going, why are you singing to me through the phone? You're gross, but
Meanwhile, Smother is right there going, come on, do it.
yes, until until they take the attention away from Smother, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we're not going to have this.
How dare you?
But yeah,
ADHD Smother.
great character. Great, the character was written well, and she's an awesome actress too.
Yeah.
She was in a lot of other movies. She was in Bridesmaids. She's really
She's
good
a
at the
great actress.
raunchy comedy too. She can do some really
Yes.
good raunchy comedy.
Yep. So it brings me another one that this is like a B comedy. It was written by the people that did My Name Is Earl back in the day, if you remember that show. But they had a spin-off in the same town, another family, another group of people called Raising Hope. Do you ever see this one?
Yeah, I know that. I know it. I didn't watch it much because because I also didn't watch My Name Is Earl, even though
Yeah.
I
He wouldn't have had any problem. Completely isolated.
Yeah.
But Virginia Chance, played by Martha Plimpton, it's the story that a lot of people in the U.S. can relate to, or around the world. Period. Young guy has a kid, has the and maybe this part's not there. The mom is a Looney Tunes and end up being in a mental institution like 3 minutes after the kid was born. So he's stuck with the kid and basically raises it with his family. And so his mother is the grandmother, obviously, but mothering him and through to the Hope, the young daughter, kind of at the same time with the craziest antics and everything. It was very fun to watch. And then one of my favorite actresses and comedians, Cloris Leachman, was actually the grandmother in that one. And she's slightly losing it a little bit, and she played that to a T. It was so much fun.
Cloris Leachman, golly.
Yeah. Yeah. Aptly nicknamed in the show Mama.
So since you're gonna go there, I'm gonna switch mine up a little bit because I've been trying to run the gambit of old and new and ones that I actually really kind of liked and resonated with and and sometimes you want them to be your mom. You sit there and you're watching and be like, man, I wish that was my mom. You could probably have the best mom in the world and you can say, oh, my mom is the greatest mom, but then you see like Mrs. Cunningham, you'd be like, man, I wish I had a Mrs. Cunningham at home making me food and pies and stuff or whatever. But I'm gonna go with the sarcastic wit, the matriarch, the true matriarch of all four of the Golden Girls, Sophia. I think Sophia from the Golden Girls, she basically she wasn't just Dorothy's mom.
Who was their mother?
The mom to all of them. She had the best one-liners. Come on, Sophia, you gotta love her. I mean,
it's a great one. That's an awesome pull. So, but yeah, no, that's really up there, and that's honestly not terribly far from where I was in the midst of the next one, and was Peggy Bundy.
Yeah.
Married with Children.
Like the anti-mom.
But think of, as I say, it wasn't like, I'm not saying I grew up in a house like that, but at the end of the day, she still did, kept the family together. She was the glue, and what a fun show to begin with. And then having her do what she did, similar to some of the other ones I've rifled off and everything, but maybe I just gravitate toward weird comedy moms. I don't know.
Now, the funny thing about Peggy Bundy and the actress that played her, Katie Seagal, she's played some really iconic moms outside of Peggy Bundy. She was the mom in Sons of Anarchy.
That's where I was going to go. I was wondering if you were going to do it. Because she was legit the whole club's mom.
Yeah. And then she became, and then she ended up being kind of the my mom. Sorry, what? Who's your mom?
Who's your mom, John?
But come on, John.
I got the anti-mom one here. If you want another one, if you want an anti-mom one here too, from this is my age in movies. Stifler's mom.
Estelle Getty.
That's all we ever find her out. Estelle Getty,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Go for
here's
it.
the funny thing about Stifler's mom, and God, what is her name in real life? It's
I'm gonna get it because she's also in that show with Two Broke Girls, and she's their mother
yep.
basically at the end of the day.
And,
And she's incredible.
and then she had two uh, seasons of White Lotus. Yep,
Jennifer
there you go.
Coolidge.
Thanks, John. Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah.
Yes. And I actually do a really bad Jennifer Coolidge impersonation, and it's always from the movie Legally Blonde. And it's like, you
Yeah,
look
that's
like
right. She was in
Fourth
that
of
too.
July. It makes me want a hot dog real bad. It means I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Which is basically, in my opinion, the whole character that she just kept doing the whole entirety of that show, Two Broke Girls, which was hysterical because she was
Yeah.
just runs a cleaning business, is like their BFF that lives one apartment above them, and was always coming in and basically stealing donuts and stuff from or muffins. Sorry, it was muffins. So, but
So
really funny, and just like I said, a few epic mom roles right there. Period.
so
So
going back to Stifler's mom, though, there was a rumor, and I had to do the research on this because I wanted to say that this can't be true. That a lot of people attribute the term or the word MILF is because of the movie American Pie. But
yep.
however, upon research, and yes, I actually did some research, that the
No freeze over.
that that stop it that the term MILF actually was like started in like the 70s, and I'm not going to say what it means. Everybody at this point in time should know what it means. I'm not going to say it. We cuss enough on this show, and we want to have some.
What?
But,
It's a Mother's Day episode. We gotta be respectful. We're gonna keep it ladylike.
very respectful. But
Ugh.
to that, yeah, Jennifer Coolidge. It's like, I'm taking the dog, dumbass. Makes me want to
This
hot
is perfect.
real bad.
Yeah.
So
But go for
ahead.
it.
No, you go.
I'm trying to figure out, and honestly, I'm at the bottom of my list. I didn't think we would rifle through them.
Oh no. Well,
I know there's more, but I'm having to rack my brain now.
So that's the thing, though, is we can go through like damn near every single one of them, but there are a few that I would like to mention because obviously there are people out there that have their own fandoms and they truly they like the shows because of the mother characters usually. Sometimes like I'm going to throw this one out there. Another animated mom. We've already talked about Lois Griffin. We already talked about Marge Simpson, but we did not mention Linda Belcher.
That's where I was going. I was thinking about that one afterwards, but I love that show. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's because it was like with me, my wife, the crazy kids that I got, but that I being instant family and stepdaughters. I'm sitting here going, if we had a restaurant that only did burgers, this is my family. That's like all it is. It's like that's all I can picture is, it'd be me and Anna in a burger joint, burned out apartment upstairs with all three kids in it and goofing around. It would, and like I said, I don't think maybe it's just one of those things, but Linda Belcher, perfect character as far as the mom. It's that right level of how should I put it? Egocentrical because she's all into herself a little bit too, but where it comes off comedic, playful, and then she's a good mom to three kids that are clearly insane.
Yeah, so we could probably go over a bunch of we can go Wilma Flintstone and Betty Rubble. Those
Jane
are
Jetson.
we could go through. Yeah. So we could go through a lot of those, but I would like to say, like, again, we going through some people's true fandoms, and some fandoms that I know, like Karen had some fandoms that she really enjoyed, and she actually kind of got me involved in a show. Um, God, what is it now? I can't even think of it. But Schitt's Creek, the show
That's
Schitt's
a great
Creek.
show.
Moira Rose, great,
Oh, excuse me.
great character, great actress. Um, and I haven't finished the series yet, but I'm like probably 5 seasons in. But yeah, I mean, you talk about some of these iconic moms. She has to be up there with some of the
Mm.
iconic moms that aren't the Betty Crocker homemaker types. They are the, like I said, the anti moms.
The
They're
real
mom
mom.
title, but not really by the reality of being a mother. You know.
Oh, what's the mom from another one that I'm forgetting? I can't believe I forget Sophia from Modern Family. What the heck was her name? Her character.
Claire,
Yeah.
talking
She
about
was
Claire.
good. Yeah.
But then but are you talking about the Spanish mom?
Yeah, Sophia. I forget. It's a real name. It's Sophia Bear. But yeah. But I don't know. Well, that was a good one
Oh,
in the comments.
John, hey, pull that one up there. I can't put it
Yeah.
up there.
Barbra Streisand from Meet the Fockers.
Yeah.
My bubula. That's a good one. I would, yeah. Kate's got another one here in the comments too. We talked about Deborah being, the real mom, I think, but yeah, but everybody loves Raymond, Sophia on the Golden Girls. We talked about, but oh wow, there's infinite amount of them. And Tommy, I wanted to throw the wrench in here and at the end of the show go completely backwards on this whole thing. Is like, okay, great. If there's obviously for every 15 great moms, there's always that one that's like, oh my god, I'm glad she's not my mom. That'd be kind of funny
What,
to
Joan Crawford
flip
wasn't?
around it. Well, the one that pops into my head, and maybe it's just because it is just such an awkward movie, is the mom from Beetlejuice. That she was just out of her mind. I'm blanking on the name, but that's the one that pops into my head. Is like, wow, I don't want to be Beatrice something, whatever, right? And
Right.
Lydia Dietz is the daughter. It's Beatrice or something like that. Dietz, right? So
Oh, yes.
yeah,
I mean,
let's just it kind of looks like a chair, honey. Just sit on it. Don't worry about it. It's like stabbing her in the back while she's trying to sit on it. But
Delia Dietz.
that Delia Dietz, yeah. So
Catherine O'Hara, same person that plays Moira.
yep. Wonderful actress. Love her. She's great. But is there anybody that sticks in your head that's like, wow, I'm glad that one didn't, I didn't land in that family because of just the family in general, or and the mother that stuck out?
That's a good one.
Or maybe
I could say Roseanne, but honestly, Roseanne was too close to what my life was like really in growing up. That my family really liked that show because it kind of mimicked well,
was
growing up
real.
in Chicago and stuff like that. I honestly I wouldn't say I wouldn't necessarily want this person because you gotta look at it from a standpoint of they brought they did the best they could maybe,
Mm.
or maybe they just didn't try. I mean, again, even like Moira Rose, her character eventually evolves into this motherly figure that she wasn't before when she was rich, but now that she's kind of, when she was dirt poor and everything, she learned how to become a mom to adult children who are basically adult children, children that just happen to be adults, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you can
Well,
even
there's one that is I got a
go
good
ahead.
one that's actually on the line right there. Mary Louise Parker plays Nancy Baldwin in Weeds. It's in that like middle. She's a good mom, but she's clearly jacked up at the same time. I don't know if you ever watched that show, but that was another one that I just stumbled onto. I'm like, hey, that's right in the middle of where we were just talking. So that was a good one. Crap, what was the other one? I was looking for the name. Wait for it.
The mom from
Oh,
the middle.
there it is. Oh, I haven't watched that in a while. You got that one that came up on
If she was to fall in that category of moms I wouldn't want, she would be the category that I would not want the mom from the middle. She just seemed like she just no, thank you.
I have the perfect comedic mom, but I definitely am glad that she was Charlie Harper's mom instead of mine. Evelyn Harper, played by Holland Taylor in 2.5 Men.
Oh God. Oh God.
Just savage.
Now,
Savage.
now you bring up now you sparked something that actually so I don't know if you've ever watched The Big Bang Theory. Like, who's this? We got a new one up there. I love to support you. Who's
So
that?
anyway, I don't know, but that's not how this works.
Yes, yeah.
So
No.
anyway, so on that note, but go ahead.
But yeah,
You
so
were on something else before that.
so John was called John McCall mentioned Howard's mom. Yes, but I was thinking of the
That's
anti
another one I was thinking.
is Leonard's mom. Leonard's mom, who basically was a female Sheldon in a way,
Yeah.
but later on loosened up because of Penny, which I think was good. But then you got Sheldon's mom, who is this Bible thumper, but you get to learn more about his family by watching young Sheldon. And believe it or not, in that show,
Yeah.
the Sheldon character actually takes a back seat, and you get to see all of these other characters get fleshed out.
Yes.
And honestly, his mom becomes one of the most unlikable characters, at least in my opinion, because of the overly religious stuff that she, but at the later
Yeah.
end of the series, she actually kind of does evolve. But then when she loses her husband, spoiler alert, but you should know this by now, that
How many years?
that you should that she goes back into that Bible thumping, and basically not a very likable character. If anybody out of all that, out of both of those shows, we find out is actually Sheldon's dad is probably the most honest, true, character out of the whole thing, and he actually became a very beloved character where we were led to believe that he was a drunk, and
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't know how I missed this one as far as bad moms go. I'm sitting here going, oh my God, I love this show. And maybe it's because I did just have that like such kind of like rich level of hate for this mom that I couldn't believe that I, just tuned it out. Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development, the mother of all the children, that is an insanely great character. And I'll just say, sitcom fun to begin with, and an odd sitcom to begin with also. But holy shnikes, I thought like the last one that I mentioned was Savage with 2.5 Men's mom. A whole new level here. It's just great show too.
I gotta be honest with you. And I'm probably in the minority with this, but I've never watched Arrested Development. I've never watched.
You're not the only one.
So
that's the reason that I maybe became a Netflix special the last 3 seasons it was on.
So the funny thing is though, Craig, and we still got a little bit of time that we can talk about this stuff. We really have not talked. We've talked about a lot of sitcom moms and television show moms, but we haven't really talked about any like movie moms and whether, well, beside we've talked about a couple,
Son.
but for the most part, we haven't really touched. And there are a bunch of other sitcom moms that we really should talk about. Like, like I said, I would consider Nell Carter from Give Me a Break a mother figure, because she's the one that raised those kids, especially after the dad died. So she basically became the legal guardian. So she's the mom, you know, and then and we go back into the 70s. We go with Florida Evans. You know, uh, we gotta pay homage to the moms that actually held things down when the men folk basically either passed on or passed away or just left, So, but yeah,
We haven't even gotten into like the fact that, how many years did Reba McEntire have a show where she was the mom on for how many seasons in a row? You didn't touch on those kind of things. To your point, Tommy, there's so much, fandom, which is what we always have with the problem on this show, trying to cram everything down into 1 hour episodes, but we'll do have more on that. But I think it's easier to say sitcom favorite pop culture moms because you do get to see so much more of the character actually develop through a series, right? Like the one I kicked off with, like I said, Jill Taylor was a great, character to begin with Home Improvement, but she had a very, very fine window at the beginning of that show when it started. And then obviously she grew to be just as important on the show as anybody else was, including Tim Allen's character. And they had episodes that were just about her and what was going on with her or one of the specific kids and all that kind of stuff, which in the first 4 or 5 seasons of that show, you didn't see that happening. So you obviously key role regardless, but you saw that evolution of finally getting to see the character fledged out instead of just being the mom.
right.
But
Wonder if
movies,
a secondary
smaller
character,
time.
an actual forefront character who has just as much input as the protagonist, if you will.
Yes. And at the end of the day, the problem is with the movies, it's like, okay, great. Well, where's the mom in this movie? It's like, oh, Miss Terrence. It's like you get the horror movie mom or something like that protecting her kids. You don't get that same depth and character you get out of a sitcom with being able to have everybody come back every week. It's got to be a mom that really hits it out of the ballpark for just a movie like Barbara Streisand was mentioned by John in the Meet the Fockers movie. She just nailed that part. And even the other mom too. I forget her name, but yeah, that was just a great movie. All those Fockers.
So and we touched base on a few like drama shows, like Sons of Anarchy, with Katie Seagal, who again, I said she's played multiple moms in different aspects, and it all started with Peggy Bundy, but then she moved on, and then her last role was basically stepmom to the Connors,
Yeah.
and because she married Dan Connor after Roseanne passed away. But there are other moms that we probably should throw out there as from like a more serious series. So like Caroline Ingalls from Little House on the Prairie.
Yep. Saw that a while ago.
Bates and Waterboy. Oh, come on, Kate. Kate coming in hot with that one.
Come on, that's on the bad list. You wouldn't even let him play the foosball.
Foosball's not for the devils. Foosball.
Vicky Valancourt wants to take me out.
No, that
too
was
funny.
a good.
That's
Yes.
well played, Kate.
Well played. Tip to the head.
Oh, too funny. Yes.
But I'm gonna throw out some other ones. Like, did you watch Game of Thrones?
I did it a little bit, yes.
So,
unfortunately, that's not my kind of fandom. Unfortunately, sci-fi. I'm more sci-fi than I am fantasy-ended, which is the same reason the Harry Potter thing didn't work.
So Daenerys Targaryen. I know I pronounce it wrong, but anyways, the mother of dragons.
Mama says you better hurry up and get this you know story.
But I gotta throw this one out there because there's a scene. It's implied. It doesn't show anything, but it's implied.
Yeah.
Mrs. Gump, Forrest's mom, to get him
Sally
to school,
Fields.
to get him into school, it's implied that she did something with the principal in order to get Forrest into regular school.
Mhm.
So again,
Yeah.
Mrs. Gump, we tip the hat to you for your dedication.
Yeah. But to that point, Sally Fields, one of the best actresses of our time. So, well, either way, great one. That was on a lot of the mom lists that I found wandering around the internet too. So, but yeah, I'm out as far as right off the top of my head.
What's that?
I'm out. My list is empty. I'm tapped. Unless you really want me to start screaming the literally Malcolm in the Middle's mom. I forget her name, but
No,
was kind of one.
no, but again, and we do this with our shows, and I'm glad that we actually have some people in here that are throwing stuff out. Oh, come on, put that one up. Put that one up. Put that one up. John coming in
How much
with Sarah Connor.
How much do we actually get to see her being a mom?
Hey, she taught her son how to shoot. How to
So I will say this: you how to befriend a robot. I got to see it wasn't watched very often, but it had 3 or 4 seasons. They had there's a horrible one too. They had a TV show.
Put it up there.
That was the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Let me finish this and I'll put it up. The Sarah Connor Chronicles, where you actually did get to see her actually, quote unquote, teaching young John Connor how to be badass at the end of the day. So yeah, I'll give it points. But this one, horrible. Oh my God, you weren't there. Anakin broke my heart, so fuck you kids. I'm gone. So
I'm out.
I'd be pretty damn mad at Anakin too. You gave me these 2 children that are going to be the saviors of the Force, and
you know what? Now here I didn't get a chance to be a part of the Phantom horrible treat whatever. Anyway,
the prequel trilogy show.
The prequel trilogy is there was a lot of crying, a lot of whining, and I will say this.
And then the sequel trilogy happened.
And then we had emo freaking Vader, Darth Emo.
There you go.
But no, I think it's absolutely funny and hilarious that she takes the time to name them and then says like, oh, you know what? Peace. I'm out.
Right. And she just doesn't want to be here anymore. It's like, thanks, George. Great dialogue.
Kate's coming back. Kate's
There's the bad moms. Well, that is definitely on the list for Brian. Life of Brian. Thank you for making sure you get your Monty Python's isms in.
Callback, Kate. Great callback.
Well played.
But
so
we're reaching the end. But yeah, we really didn't talk about and I understand what you're saying though about you about the moms on television shows, especially television shows that have had longer runs, because you get these characters that probably were a secondary character at some point, but then they evolve into a main character where they actually are the ones that are setting the stage, if you will, and holding everything down. You know, and you got to appreciate that, and there's a lot to it, and I can mention some other like horrible moms from television shows that I'm not necessarily proud I know of, but like Sex in the City and
yeah. An interesting one just popped up on my internet one was George Costanza's Mom Estelle. It's like, oh yeah, that's a wild one there. But Georgie,
Okay, wait. You want to know?
Go for
Okay,
it.
I'm going to throw this out at you. I'm going to throw this out at you, and I'm going to actually name both of them as dueling horrible parents. Just both of them,
No.
horrible parents. Ross and Rachel from Friends.
Oh yeah, they'd be horrible parents.
Horrible parents, because the whole first season you're waiting for Ben, yeah, all right, Ben, he's got a son, and then you never see Ben. He pops in every once in a blue moon,
Who's
but then he's
Ben?
gone. And then he has Emma, I think that's her name, with Rachel, and neither one of them really seem to be doing anything with. Where is your child? Did you just leave it in the apartment and just hope that, like you put on Baby Einstein and just let it watch TV?
Hey, just to say it, Ted from How I Met Your Mother tortured his kids for how many seasons on that couch, making them listen to all his stories?
Yep,
So-
yep. No, now, John, are you
Oh,
talking about Edith Bunker from All in the Family, or is Judith Bunker somebody else?
yeah, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, because Edith Bunker, I would say, yeah, but she was, the thing is that she became a little bit more of a powerful person, but there were some
Yes.
some episodes that were really really bad. Oh no, you're fine,
Yeah.
John. You're fine. But Edith, she had an episode where she was sexually assaulted. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say that anymore. Am I allowed to say that? Will we get flagged? She was
Yeah, well.
she was SA'd, and then there was times when she actually put Archie in his place, and even though Archie's character was referred to as the lovable bigot, he
Yeah.
they took those
I can flag away.
they took those terms and they put them on their head, by introducing George Jefferson and characters like that, making this lovable bigot into a more of a world that he can't be that way, and we're talking, that's the 70s,
This is only a little bit ago.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, I know that you're ready to wind this up. So, but I think this was a really good episode. I think that because we did the moms, when Father's Day comes around, we should probably do the Father's Day version of this, and preferably
That
not.
one's probably going to be closer to 50-50 with who's going to be good and who's going to be bad, because most sitcom dads are kind of like, Stacy Keach, that show I love, Titus, growing up.
Oh my God,
Bet you won't do that again, boy.
that's an obscure one. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I love that show. But I love Christopher Titus as a comedian too. So there's that. So
So
good
before
stuff.
we
But
wind up,
anyway, Tommy is.
shameless self plugs.
I got nothing. But anyway, go for it. I
Well,
got nothing new.
so let's see. I'm gonna try. I can't promise anything, but if we do an episode on Sunday to get ourselves back on track, I'm down for that. Just know that on Monday I and Karen leave for Greece, and we will be gone for 10 days. So I will leave it up to you if you want to do an episode
We'll
without
talk
me.
about that
Yep.
offline.
But other than
So
that, the Flint Hill Dance Troupe is going to be doing practices up until for pretty much the rest of this time, except for the end of June, June 20th, 21st. We're going to be doing Celtic Fair at the Genesee Country Village and Museum. So if you are in the Rochester area or the surrounding areas of the upstate region and you want to go and see some lively dancing and me in a kilt, come out to
that might
Genesee
scare everybody away.
and see and watch the Flint Hill Dance Troupe dance, or as I like to say, because it's an old timey saying, is trip the light fantastic. So
There it is.
that is a term used by dancers, which means to dance lightly and lively. So trip the light
There it is.
fantastic. So that's all I got.
So the only thing I got, obviously everybody check out the Jay Bird Watching podcast. We were just live right before the show. I went back to back, or in baseball terms today, from the great Ernie Banks, I played 2 today. Let's play 2. I figured I'd get that with your Chicagoisms. So
Wait,
go for it.
Before you start, because I have to say this. This is something that dawned on me. We got a new pope. We
do, and he's from Chicago.
And he's from Chicago. So you know what that means? The Bears are going to win the Super Bowl.
I was thinking that might, yeah. I saw.
Go ahead.
Everybody knows that I love the Blues Brothers, and I'll see if I can find it really quick. But I think Dan Aykroyd was the one that tweeted out, or somebody tweeted it to Dan Aykroyd. It was a picture of him and Jake in the front of the police cruiser with the Pope cruising behind him, and it said "On a mission from God." So perfect, awesome stuff. But go ahead, finish your thought.
So yeah, that was my thought. I was like, man, we got a pope that came from Chicago, my hometown. I was like, the Cubs are going to win the World Series because nobody cares about the Sox, and
they're an active God there.
North side, and as much as I would love to see the Bills win a Super Bowl, they may go to the Super Bowl and play against the Bears, but because the Pope has God on his side, the Bears are probably going to win the Super Bowl. That's a prediction.
So the part that I was getting to, so I'm having the first rock star I've ever had on any of my podcasts on May 28th, because guess what? The lead singer of Silverstein from the early 2000s is about to have their 10th album out, so it's going to be 30 years of them recording music together. Shane Told of Silverstein is the lead singer of the band, and he is apparently a giant Blue Jays fan, and they have a brand new album coming out in October that they just released their first single for, and it's an amazing one. I really highly recommend going on your Spotify, typing in Silverstein, and checking out their new material, because they actually just got done releasing another album to begin the year. So they're having their new one, and it's kind of meant to be like a big celebration of them playing music together for 30 years. Really good band for, I'll say, kind of in that emo, well played but screamer at the same time.
Oh, so
but
screaming with melody.
Yes, actual music.
Screaming with harmonies. There you go.
But make sure you check out the Jay Bird Watching podcast. They listen into a rock star for a little bit and talk some baseball at the same time. It's going to be very interesting to hear something contrast on that for a little bit. So good deal. That's all I got.
That's all. Yep. So, hey, everybody, thank you again for bearing with us and allowing us to enter your space and talk to you about all things nerdy and geekdom. And be sure to catch us on your Spotify, your Apple,
YouTube, wherever you get your pleasures.
Wherever you get your podcast pleasures, we are there. So please keep us in mind, and always, keep coming with those comments. Keep talking to us about because you know what? Sometimes we don't know what to talk about. And again, if you got a fandom you want to talk about, we want to hear about it. So,
and maybe even join us.
Yeah, join us and be the third head of this weird, wacky machine that we got going on here.
Yep. There it is. So make sure you do the Calgon thing. You tell 2 friends, then they tell 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. So, and we will see you all at whatever new schedule we figure out here, because Tommy and I are going to be working on what day we are going to be more consistently getting to and having a better schedule than the last 2 weeks, because spring's rolling around and the weather's getting nicer, and him and I are both places. So game on, everybody. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. And yeah, cheers.